When was the last time that you absolutely trusted yourself? Not because you were perfect, but because you showed up for yourself. Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking about trust and trust within yourself and trust within your dance teacher, because there's so much to be said about what actually happens when you trust yourself. So today, I was talking to someone, I hadn't met her before, and she asked me what I do, and I told her that I own a dance studio and I teach adults how to dance. And she was like, whoa, adults? And I was like, yes. And she was like, oh my gosh, like adults dance? And I was like, yes. She's like, well, because my daughter dances and da 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 da, and went into that. And I was like, yeah, this is like that, except it's for you. And she was like, oh my God, that is so cool, but I could never. So I was like, yes, you can. You really can. And she was like, I don't know. And what I observed was that she absolutely wanted to. The challenge of the thought process of doing it and seeing herself there got her excited and also nervous. And what I was noticeably repeating within my head was trusting. So trusting two things, trusting herself that she could do it, and trusting I can teach you this. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that process of how you get to the part where you even get that as an option, where you get to trust yourself. And that's like option one. You could trust yourself or you don't. Oh, I think I'm going to trust myself. Option two, you either trust the teacher or you don't. Oh, no, I think I'm going to trust the teacher. And it's those two choices in those two options that make the best outcome for me, helping you to have results, and the best outcome for you becoming the dancer that you want to become, to do what you thought at one point would be impossible. I have some very new students right now, and it's funny because in my shoes, like I can see in my heels, I can see what is very possible for my dancers before they see it. And there's a part of me that knows and can vividly see the frustration and the work going through their minds, what they have to do every time they're in class to tell themselves like, okay, keep going, you got this. And one, it's taking themselves not too seriously, but seriously enough to know like, you can do this. And it's two, showing up even when it doesn't feel good. And to do those things, you get to lean on trust. Self-trust is fully believing that the learning process is yours. Being able to be in the learning process and be a beginner and love the beginner process not only is a mindset shift, I know it is, it's like a pass. I like to think of it as a pass. It's the fast pass, really, because you get to allow for so much error and silliness and like mistakes, and those are what get you closer. When you can be in a room and make as many mistakes as needed, that's when you get to learn. When you can trust yourself to know that you're not looking stupid. That's you looking smart. What a cool reframe that is. Normally, people will say, oh, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to ask the wrong questions. What if instead, though, you asked all of the questions, and instead of looking stupid, you were asking the questions that were so smart and great questions to ask? What if you had the trust to say, I know I'll get this right, and I know it will take time? What if you had the trust to say, when this gets hard, harder than it even is right now, I'm going to stay the course because I know I'm going to eventually learn these hard things? Because the self-trust then becomes more about your relationship with yourself versus all of the outcomes. Dance is always going to challenge your self-trust. It's funny how it does that. You're going to forget choreography. You're going to have an off day where your body hurts. There's going to be inconsistency. There's going to be comparison. These are all things. Self-trust in dance is knowing that when these happen, you know exactly how to stay kind to yourself in that moment. So you might be thinking, well, how do I build self-trust if I don't have any of it? And you might not have it yet. It's kind of like you weren't born with the ability to walk, but you did. You figured it out. This is the same. You aren't born with the ability to dance, but you get to get taught. So one of the keys is showing up on the hard days. It's going to be hard. I will never tell my students learning dance is easy. Learning can be easier if you have a healthy mindset, if you're gentle with yourself. Showing up is a great way to build that relationship of trust with yourself because you learn to count on yourself. Think about that person, like, you know, there's a person that if you call, you know, they're going to pick up. Or if you ever like wanted to talk something out, you know, there's that person that would be so happy to sit with you and talk it out. Except instead of with a friend, you're building that with yourself. You're learning, I can depend on you to bring me to class. You're talking to yourself, even when it's hard. Self-trust is also built when you can return after disappointment. And I will tell you, firsthand experience from watching my students, there are nights where they are not happy with themselves. They're frustrated and they're like, oh, if only I got that, or if only I didn't forget it. They learn, though, very soon how to treat themselves with kindness in those moments and how to return after the disappointment. So it doesn't even really feel like a disappointment anymore. It's just like, okay, well, that happened at dance. That happens at dance. It's very similar to when I was competing gymnastics, the beam. I mean, like, who didn't fall off the beam? It was just part of it. Like, you're going to fall off. Get ready for it. Hopefully you can land nice. You're going to get a raspberry. To do gymnastics, you have to be okay knowing that you're going to fall. Obviously, we don't want to, but we're learning how to do something on a 4-inch wide platform. Go us. I honestly sometimes still can't believe gymnastics is what it is. Like, wows me. And dance too. We talked about this before too, this idea of staying curious without defeat. And that's a big part of self-trust, is knowing that, like, you might have moments where you do feel defeated and to accept them. Like, that's part of the process. Like, oh, damn, like, I didn't get it that time. And I'm still so curious. I'm going to try it again. There's something that I learned, and it's the phrase, ego is your biggest overhead. Remember that ego is that external validation. And then we also have pride, which is that internal validation. So either one of those two could come up in class, and you might feel, I should be able to get this. Why is this hard for me? Well, it's hard for you that night. Accept it and move through it. I got to say, sometimes it's even hard for me to do certain subjects on a podcast. Like, I'll get stuck like within my words and I'll be like, what am I saying? It's not all of them. I trust myself to know that it's fine. I'll get through it. But they all look different. There is something though called healthy pride. And it's reminding yourself like, hey, you didn't quit. You kept going, and you kept going when it was hard and it got harder. You stayed through the whole class. You didn't think you were going to come tonight. You weren't feeling the best, but you went and you stayed true to your commitments. You get to see progress. And self-trust can also be built through your reflections after class. So there's a reason why I teach the way I teach. And one of the reasons why I have this thing, we call it circle time, and it's after class, and it's where we share our highlights and our successes. And I am a firm believer of celebrating your wins and finding something in the class that was successful. And even if you can't quite find it, you can always ask for help. And sometimes my students, especially when they're new, they'll come up with, oh, I don't even know what was a success. And they might need to phone a friend, and they might need to learn how to see it in the light that it is a success. So always acknowledging your effort is a beautiful form of self-trust. Naming a win, that's always going to be an act of self-love and self-trust. And then the idea that you don't have to critique everything. Like, you can actually have progress, and it can be not perfect progress, and it's progress nonetheless. This is something that when you're able to build your relationship with yourself at dance and you're building your self-trust, it flourishes out to other parts of your life. You'll be able to feel it in your relationships. You're going to feel it with the way that you show up at your job. You're going to feel it when you're at the doctor's office and they're just not listening to you. And you're going to have enough trust to yourself to be like, well, at dance, we repeat things over and over and over again. So I'm going to repeat this story for you, just in case you missed this one little tiny detail that's going to get myself closer to a diagnosis. You learn to trust yourself, and you learn that there's a reason why we do things the way we do them. You might even learn to trust your boundaries a little bit more. I know for a fact that my students feel so much more confident once they start dancing, which means by default, they have so much more self-trust, because you can't have one without the other. You can't be confident but then not trust yourself. That's an oxymoron. So really then, trusting yourself, as you know, is the foundation for all the aspects of your life. I'm sure we've all had that moment when we learned the importance of trust in a relationship. I can remember mine very vividly. I was like first grade, and I brought scissors home from the school, and like I remember talking to my dad. My dad was like, these aren't your scissors. And I was like, no, they're not. And he was like, did you take them? And I was like, yep. And he was like, well, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to take the class scissors. And I was like, okay. And then he said this, and I remember this. He was like, you don't want to lose my trust. And it was like, oh, okay, I know I don't. And he said, because once it's gone, it's very hard to gain it back. And I remember like, oh, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't need the scissors. And it's so true because have you ever had that moment with yourself where you've done something that has felt so out of line and you kind of like you lost respect for yourself potentially, and maybe you lost your trust within yourself. So the key is to know that yes, you can rebuild it back, and also to live in the moments. It's kind of like the stock market. Like that money is just like being made for you. Like dancing, that trust is just being built for you. Like going to dance and doing everything with kindness to yourself, you're able to actually compound. I'm thinking of like those little like plus ones in like a game where it's like broom, broom, broom. It's like plus one, plus one, plus one. Like these like coins of self-trust are stockpiling and like compounding. And you have no other option but to trust yourself once you start dancing. That's actually the perfect equation. You plus dance equals trust and confidence. And that's how you build it. And that's how you become that person that is actually proud of themselves. It's because you've learned to trust yourself. So here are some reflection questions for you so that you can start to feel the trust bank building up for yourself. So the first question is, where have I shown up lately? The next is, what am I proud of that no one else saw? The next one is, when did I stay instead of quit? And the last one is, how do I talk to myself after effort? Meaning, what do you say to yourself after you've expended a lot of effort towards something that you're working on? So I hope that you're able to lean into your trust this week, next month, all year. And I hope that you find that it helps you stay on the right path and it helps you build your confidence and that you are so worthy of everything that dance provides. Lean into it. If this was helpful for you, it would mean the absolute world to me if you shared this with someone on your Instagram, or even if you gave it a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Doing this would help another dancer just like you on their dance journey. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.